Welcome to Sex Ed with DB. I'm your host, DB. Let's get into it. Let's talk about lube and condoms. Something important to know is that oil-based lube is not to be used with condoms because the oil can cause the condom to break or tear, which would defeat the purpose of using it. Thank goodness for Uberlube. Uberlube is latex compatible, so it's safe and effective to use with condoms. But wait, there's more. Dispensing 2 drops of Uberlube inside a condom and a measured pump outside will increase pleasure. What are you waiting for? Use code SEXEDWITHDB for 15% off at uberlube.com. Flicking the bean, wanking, self-loving, jilling off, ménage à moi. All of these are different and very creative ways to say masturbation. For 21 days, I conducted a masturbation experiment with one of my favorite vibes ever, the magic wand. In a nutshell, I wanted to answer one question. What is the impact of daily magic wand use on my health and wellness, as well as my sexual experience when compared to regular sexual activity and no sexual activity? The results surprised me more than I thought they would. Want to see the hypotheses and the results for yourself? Go to sexedwithdb.com/magicwandexperiment to learn more. Hey everyone, DB here. I am absolutely stoked for you to hear our Best of Orgasms episode. This episode features clips from the Curious Sex Ed episode on orgasms and a More Sex Ed episode on strengthening orgasms. In the first clip, Mariah and I share tips on reaching orgasm. And in the second clip, I discuss why someone might be experiencing hurdles in reaching the type of orgasm they want to achieve. Get ready to hear some amazing content on orgasms. I feel like, there's this whole idea of, okay, well, the orgasm gap exists, right? Which is basically like the statistical disparity between like cis women not having enough orgasms as cis men. Queer people like have more orgasms because they've had to figure out their own cultural scripts and had to figure out like, better communication, and they have different representations in media and all these things. But like, that doesn't mean that you absolutely need to reach orgasm every single time. Like you should listen if you want to, then that's great. And you should be able to have a conversation with your partner about like, hey, this is what feels good for me. Hey, this is how I orgasm. But if you're not really like wanting that, if you're not in the headspace, don't pressure yourself to do that. Let's talk about the science of like what actually is an orgasm, because I think that's the question that a lot of people write into me, at least through Sex Ed with DBs. Like, I think I've reached an orgasm, but I'm just not really sure. Like, is it just pleasure? Sure. What should I be looking out for if you're like a first timer who feels like you have not received or achieved orgasm? Here's what a basic understanding of an orgasm is. So it's like a brief, sometimes longer, but usually like a few seconds long of sexual excitement. And it really does feel like this fill up of pressure and a release of that pressure when it gets to the fullest point. And during an orgasm, people may experience a really, really intense like rush of pleasure to the genitals throughout the body, but it could feel really different for each person. And I think a way to really consider like how to connect to your like body if you're trying to figure out if you're doing this is your heart beating quick? Because like literally an orgasm is like a rush of blood. And like blood is pumping at like a quicker rate during this peak. And like the vulva, for example, can grow up to like 300% during arousal. And so if you like really check in with your body, like feel your body, like put your hand on your vulva. If you have a vulva, is it bigger? Like if you have a penis, it can feel a little different because maybe you're someone who, like most people, ejaculates during orgasm, but some people don't, right? And so I think like if you're listening and you have a penis, maybe you know for sure like when you've had an orgasm, but if you're trying to reach a stronger orgasm, right? Say your orgasm isn't as strong as you want it to be, connect with your body. Is your heart beating super fast? Are you kind of like using the same like porn you always use or the same thing? Or are there other kind of routines that maybe you can try to like shift the way in which your orgasm comes? Because again, it can be really different depending on who you are and what your body and mind are kind of telling you and feeling.
Yeah, totally. And there are different types of orgasms. There's so many. And yeah, another thing to add to your list is also like muscle contractions. That's also another sign that you have indeed had an orgasm. But just to say that there are so many different ways not only to experience pleasure but also to have an orgasm. There's clitoral orgasms, there's a penis orgasm, a blended orgasm, anal orgasm. The list goes on. So just know that there are so many options. You don't have to just like focus on one part of the body if you don't want to.
Totally.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the how, like things you can try to achieve an orgasm, especially if you're struggling. Maybe you've tried some of this stuff, maybe you haven't. A good place to start is definitely explore your own body. Discover what feels good to you. And maybe it's not just your genitals. You can explore with different types of stimulation, explore different erogenous zones like the nipples, your neck, your stomach, or your like inner thighs, and try and just get really, really familiar with your own body. This can, not only help you in your own practice of self-pleasure, but it's also really helpful so you can communicate it to a partner, right? So you can tell them what feels good, and this can increase your chances of reaching an orgasm, hopefully. If you're with a partner and you're having sex and you're wanting to have an orgasm, have some sort of open and honest communication or discussion. Maybe talk about like, this doesn't feel good. I know I'm not going to orgasm this way. Or maybe you try a different position and you and your partner can hopefully come to some sort of solution. You can just try different techniques, right? Again, try and remove the pressure of having to orgasm and instead just have fun. Like just try things because it can feel good, just for funsies.
Just for funsies.
Just for funsies. Anxiety and stress can interfere a lot with sexual pleasure, as we've said. So try maybe beforehand engaging in some relaxation techniques, maybe some mindfulness, some deep breathing, or even meditation, because the more present you are, the more connected you are to your body. This can even be like setting up your space, putting on some candles, finding a scheduled quiet time for solo play. Like these are things that can hopefully get you into your body and get you into like support you as you get into the mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really think that this piece about medication should not be like, can't be overstated. Like this is a really popular reason why people have trouble and struggle with reaching orgasm and like quote getting in the mood or feeling like your libido is low. I know for myself, like I was put on the birth control pill like at a very young age, like I don't know, like 15 or 16, and that really did impact like a lot of things about my like libido and like me just not being in the mood and me not being able to like get as much pleasure. And I know for sure, like statistically like science backed information is there about this, as well as anecdotally, like SSRIs, like antidepressants can definitely cause it can influence your libido and your ability to reach orgasm. So just know that like that is a real thing. And if you are someone and a lot of people are on medication and there's nothing wrong with that, but just know that like that is a real thing that can happen. And those are real side effects. But if you're kind of wanting to, whether or not you're on medication, if you're wanting to try actual techniques to like try to reach orgasm, if you haven't, really, really cannot emphasize the importance of sex toys. I think like sex toys exist so that we get pleasure, we get happiness, and we get it quickly, usually. It really depends on the kind of toy. I know for sure, like a magic wand is, yes, I am sponsored by them. And they're also one of my favorite toys of all time because that shit is powerful. And like, if you are someone with a vulva, that is a really fantastic option. If you're someone with a penis, considering a fleshlight or something that can give you a lot of pressure with a lot of lubricant can also be a really, really great toy, or a vibrating cock ring or something like that. I know the Tanga egg is also a very popular penis-centered sex toy. So consider doing some research on those. Check out Lion's Den, also another sponsor of mine. You can get some percentage off. Go to sexedwithdb.com/discounts and buy all the sex toys your heart desires for 15% off. And lube really cannot be, it's fantastic. And a lot of people, regardless of the genitals that you have, can get dry in the genitals, and that can prevent you from reaching orgasm. There needs to be enough lubrication and not as much friction in order for you sometimes to be able to reach orgasm. So check out lube, figure out what feels really good for you. And the last thing that I'm going to say is porn and erotica. I was never like a romance novel person, and I kind of like recently discovered them, and I haven't read too many of them, but like those things are great and can really, really like get your mind stimulated. And when your mind is connecting to your body, then that can allow you to receive the pleasure that you want and potentially reach orgasm. Dipsy is also an audio erotica app that I highly recommend checking. So good. And so I think like really just kind of explore with these different kind of tools to help you. It's one piece of the puzzle, right? Like all of these pieces have to connect. And while you shouldn't put pressure on yourself, if you are wanting to reach orgasm and you're finding that you're not really able to, don't be afraid to really seek that extra support and professional help. If there's a healthcare professional who specializes in sexual health or pain during sex or vulvodynia or, a pelvic floor PT, a sex therapist, they can really assess like what might be going on with you. Maybe you need a mental health therapist, maybe you need a different kind of therapist, but whether it's physical, psychological, physiological, that might be affecting this ability to orgasm, they can give you like really specific advice. And just know that you're not alone. Once again, a lot of people have this experience.
There's no specific timeline for achieving an orgasm. So just take your time. It's okay, like, to just try and figure things out. I totally understand the frustration. It sounds like this particular person with their question, maybe they have been trying it for a long time and they're like, I'm over this. Why can't I do this? So that's understandable. But even so, still be kind to yourself, because as you've learned, there are so many things that can affect a person's ability to orgasm. Some of them are completely out of your control. But there are things that you can do to try and help with it. So that's all I gotta say.
And that's it. Just the one more like brief note, and maybe this is like a separate episode, but I do want to offer the idea of there are people out there who are anorgasmic, meaning they physically cannot achieve orgasm. And I just want to say, like, if you are someone who's tried everything and you've talked to the health professionals and you've tried everything that we're talking about, like, consider that this might be something that you have. And really think about like, what does that mean for me? Are there other ways that can fulfill me and give me pleasure and joy if orgasm is not going to be one of those ways? And what does that look like for you? We talk a lot about sex ed, but when we're shopping for products to support our sexual wellness, exploration, and expression, we head to the experts at Lion's Den. For 50 plus years, Lion's Den has been a leader in adult products. Whether you want to explore a new kink or add a little romance to your evening, Lion's Den has something for all. Each location is brightly lit and staffed with the very best experts in pleasure, passion, and romance, so you can feel comfortable and confident in your purchases. Lion's Den is offering our listeners 15% off your purchase in-store and online using code SEXEDWITHDB at lionsden.com.
Ever feel like the wellness landscape is missing something and that conversations are very one-size-fits-all? And that the conversations don't necessarily apply to your experiences? Hi, I'm Dr. Cassandra Dunbar, the host of the Be Well Sis podcast. Be Well Sis explores everything from hormonal health to aging to relationships and everything in between. The Be Well Sis podcast is your home for insightful conversations with incredibly inspiring women from all walks of life. Join us every week and tune into an episode that is crafted to help you thrive physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The Be Well Sis podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. Be Well Sis.
Today's question in full comes from someone who says, sometimes I orgasm, but don't feel any of the euphoria that comes with it, and I have to go a couple more rounds to feel something. What does this mean? And so for me, this question really just comes down to like, how can I have like a stronger orgasm, or how can I feel better in my orgasm? And so if that is relevant to you, listen on. So a couple things come to mind first, right? Like number one, orgasm doesn't necessarily have to be the goal of your sexual experience with yourself or with a partner. If it is, however, that's totally cool, and that orgasming is really fun and feels really good for people. So I totally understand if it is. So maybe you're thinking like, okay, maybe I know how to reach orgasm, but it just like doesn't feel as strong or as good as I want it to feel in my body and mind. Now, first of all, let's talk about the mind part of that, because if you are someone who feels very anxious or feels very distracted or is kind of just like not feeling very good about where you're at with sex or masturbation, or you're just thinking about your laundry list or your chore list, that might impact your orgasm. Like it might take longer to achieve. It might not be as strong. Your mind might not let your body get in the mood. So I think the first thing I'll say is like, check in with yourself as to where you're actually at if you are wanting to be in that zone. And if you're not there, how can you get there? So is it like taking a couple deep breaths, doing a meditation, like relaxing yourself, not going on social media beforehand? Maybe it's setting a candle or getting some massage oil out and starting to rub your body to like really calm yourself and get into your, intimate mode, your erotic zone. And so that's the first part that I want to share. So when it comes to getting your body in the zone of feeling really, really good in your orgasm and in your pleasure, sex toys are a really fantastic way to increase the strength of your orgasm. And, this person is saying they have to go a couple more rounds to feel something. When you're using a sex toy, it might mean that you just want to go those extra rounds because you're actually reaching multiple orgasms, or you're just kind of hanging out in this like in between zone of like we talked about in the last episode with shameless sex hosts Amy and April. Amy was kind of talking about like hanging out in this like in between zone, maybe between orgasms, between the peaks, where it feels really, really good, and that is definitely thanks to sex toys. So if you're someone who hasn't tried a sex toy and you've maybe only been doing it old school with your fingers, I highly recommend you try to figure out like, okay, am I someone who really likes internal stimulation? Am I someone who wants only clitoral stimulation? Do I like my nipples being played with? Do I want kind of like pressure? Do I want, what kind of, pattern do I want? Do I want something that's really strong and bold? Or do I want something that's like zippy and quiet? There's so many different kinds of sex toys, but the reason why I bring it up is because sex toys definitely are used to strengthen our orgasms. Like the vibration really, really allows for our muscles to be kind of like contracting, like our vulva muscles in particular, and like our uterine muscles contract when we orgasm. And so if you're adding pressure and vibration and power to your orgasm, then your body, it's like a full body experience sometimes, and it can feel really, really intense in a good way. But if you're someone who's like, oh, that kind of sounds like overwhelming to me, I really just want to be able to get in the zone without a sex toy, don't discount a partner going down on you or using your hands or your fingers. If you're someone who learned how to masturbate as a young person and you're still kind of using those same techniques, say you learn to masturbate on your belly, if you're a vulva owner, then you can lean into that. You don't need to change your position, or you don't need to change, if it's not broken, don't fix it, basically. But if you're kind of feeling like, oh, like that just doesn't seem to cut it anymore, or it's not strong enough, I would have a conversation with a partner, if you do have a partner, around what that mouth can do. Because I think, similar to a sex toy, it really just adds so much unique feeling to an orgasm and can really, really, excite your genitals in a way that adds a lot of lubrication and pleasure. And there can be different things that someone could do with their tongue in order to increase the strength of that orgasm and decrease the amount of time that it takes to get there. So yeah, generally speaking, I do kind of feel like when it comes to sex toys, when it comes to someone going down on you, or using your fingers, it's really like an experimentation of like, okay, well, what works best? What am I really trying to go for? And if you think about it in another way of like, okay, maybe my orgasm sometimes is a little weaker, but that means that maybe next time I want to make it super strong. So maybe occasionally I'll use a sex toy, or occasionally I'll try to figure out a way where it can be super strong, because there's also some novelty in different kinds of orgasms and different kinds of sexual experiences. So, ultimately the question here is like, what does this mean? At the end of the day, you know your body best. If you're kind of feeling like, oh, like this just isn't like working out, I've tried a sex toy, I've tried, a hookup going down on me, I've tried my hands, and like I just feel like my orgasm is super weak, then I would definitely recommend chatting with a pelvic floor therapist, a physical therapist, and a sex therapist, either one of those or both, and just kind of like figure out what might be going on for you. Because like I said in the beginning of this episode, there could be mental health aspects, there could be anxiety, depression, there could be an injury. There are so many things that could impact our pleasure and our health and our orgasm, that if you feel like a sex toy isn't cutting it, then it's really important to consider getting a pro in there and really having a conversation about that. The final thing that I'll say is that lube can be a really, really great way to decrease friction, increase pleasure, and promote a stronger orgasm with a sex toy or with your hands. Because when you're reaching that peak and you want to have a stronger orgasm, you don't want to slow down and stop what you're doing. You want to continue in order to, well, I don't know you, I don't know your life, but if you're someone who wants a stronger orgasm, you might want to continue touching yourself in order to really, really get that maximum amount of pleasure from your peak and from your climax. So lube can be a really, really great addition if you haven't tried that. Our creator, host, and executive producer is me, Danielle Bezalel. Our communications lead is Cathren Cohen. Our producer is Sadie Lidji. Our marketing coordinator is Mitch Coburn. Our social media coordinator is M. Kirsty Frazier. Our music theme is by Hook Sounds. Thanks so much to our featured guests, partners, and listeners. Want to partner with us? Email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. Do you have a silly sex story to share, need some advice, or have thoughts on the episode you just heard? Give us a booty call for a chance to be featured on the podcast. Check the show notes for the details. For more sex ed content, follow us on IG at sexedwithdb podcast and on TikTok at sexedwithdb. Want to know your sex toy zodiac sign? Go to our link tree on our IG now. See you next time.